Gene Dominique. Since 2015, Gene Dominique has used photography to recover from the trauma of a 30-year law practice. His work varies from documentary to portrait to still life. Gene's art practice also includes volunteer work. He currently sits on the board as a board member for San Francisco Camera Work and the Photography Department Advisory Board at the San Francisco City College. Let's welcome Gene Dominique.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see everybody. This is the new normal, seeing everybody like this in Zoom boxes. So this is pretty great stuff. Before I go into my slides, I want to say thank you to Derek. Thank you to Ashley, Nicole, and to all the leaders at Art of the African Diaspora for all the great work that you guys are doing, and in particular doing this this art talk today. So I saw this quote, and I feel like it applies to my work in the past year. I didn't allow myself to simply serve the time. I made the time serve me. So I am a visual artist and a visual person. And when I look back on the last 12 months, I guess I created in different environments and created a bit in different ways, but I continued to create. And I think that's important for artists, for us to continue to create. And since the visual medium is what I'll do, I'll take you through my year in pictures. I started in March of 2020 with the pandemic in New York City. We went to visit a friend who was terminally ill, and we balanced this idea of traveling and traveling into what was then the heart of the pandemic in New York City against the probability that we would never see our friend alive again if we didn't go. So we chose to go see him. And this is a street scene from Manhattan. And it was a little bit different than the Bay Area at the time because New York City was deeper in the throes of the pandemic than we were. So this was a little bit shocking to see. When I came back, I wanted to see what San Francisco looked like during the time of pandemic. So I took some walks. This is an early morning walk. This is the middle of the week, around 8 o'clock, where in normal times, pre-pandemic times, this California street near Kearny would be bustling with people and cars, but in the middle of the shutdown and the sheltering in place, there was just nothing here. And I ran into this guy. He asked what I was up to, and I said, I'm just looking around the city. And we chatted. He was on his way to work. I asked him if I could take his picture. And so this is his portrait. Also in April, 8 Black men and 2 Black women were killed. And you know, this stuff happens so frequently. We become immune to the numbers and immune to the people. So some of my creative outlet is simply to do something with anger and to do something with the rage that I feel. On these bullets, it says, "Stop killing us." And sometimes I create things for no other reason than to respond to the way I feel. By the time May came around, we were all familiar with these sort of essential items of the pandemic. And I had by this time retreated into the studio, and I was doing still life work. And so I created this still life piece, again, to respond to what I was feeling and to respond to my surroundings, which, you know, by May had become quite small and quite claustrophobic. And I just felt the need to make this because this is stuff that we were all referring to on a daily basis. So I wanted to sort of illustrate that in this piece of still life work. The political scene was outrageous last year. I think we were looking for the one thing that would stop the chaos. And for a while, people relied on the Mueller investigation, and we thought that might do it, and it didn't do it. And this is what I thought of the Mueller report at the time. George Floyd was killed on May 25th last year. And again, my outrage required me to do something. And I made these two pieces. I've never seen his killing, and I'm not interested in seeing his killing, but I am interested in what he said in the last 8 minutes of his life. And so I found his last 8 minutes of pleas, and that's what you see on the right. You know, many people have seen the video, and the words to me are moving and horrible and just enraging. So it's not necessary for me to see the video. I went back into the city on that crazy day in September, in the fall, when the sun never came out, and I did some photography around town. Hopefully this was going to be a once in a lifetime thing, but at 11:20 in the morning, this is what the waterfront along the Embarcadero looked like. And I had a chance to put this image up. The image on the left is also on the right as a mural on the side, on the Mandela Parkway side of the American Steel warehouse. Several of us put up mural-sized photographs, and this was, we had an opening afternoon where people came, and we talked about this work for a while out there on Mandela Parkway, so I wanted to show that as well. I also got a chance to co-curate an in real life art show in September of last year at the Abrams Cleghorn Gallery in Albany. And this is one of the images of several of the artists who participated in that. And then by January of this year, I decided to look at people again, rather than continue with the still life stuff. And so I did some studio portraiture, and this is one that I'm particularly happy about. And in February of this year, I was asked to talk about ancestry and family. And so I have a series of photographs of my family and my ancestors in the State Building in San Francisco. And it'll be up until April, the end of April this year. And this is my great-grandfather, Henry Smith Sr. This photograph was done in the 30s, but if anybody gets an opportunity to go to the State Building, the lower gallery, I think I have 14 images there, and we have photographs from my family that go back as far as the 1890s, and you can have an opportunity to see those. They're up for public display there. Later this year, I have a show featuring some abstract work, and so this is one example of what I've been turning my attention to in last month, February of this year. And before the pandemic, I was working on a documentary series called Still Here, African American Farmers in the 21st Century. And if you Google my name, you can find my website, and the work I've done there is available to see. But this is just a illustration of some of the, one of the farms I went to, a cranberry farm on Cape Cod. And it's sort of what I'm using to motivate myself to start to plan to get back out and start doing this work again, because the project is nowhere near completion. And so this is just motivation for me. I'm going to give up my screen. That's what I wanted to show today. So I guess, you know, I'll leave it and just say that we got to do this work. We got to make the work. The pandemic is just one of, you can pick an obstacle, and we're always going to find obstacles, but artists do work. And so we just have to keep creating. That's how I would like to leave you all today. And again, good to see everyone. Cheers.
Well, thank you, Gene, so much for sharing. I think that last statement of what you said, it plays into what Ashara had mentioned. I had never thought of artists being a first responder, but it completely is changing my perspective, just on how we wouldn't know the history or any of the arts of anything without you all being on the front lines. And I love what you said. If you see my head down, I'm taking notes because things are coming to me. But I love your quote where you said, "I didn't allow myself to simply serve the time. I made the time serve me." And it's definitely something that I think I've shared this with Aunt and with Candy, just as personal friends, that, I don't know the next time that we'll get this much time alone to ourselves or with our families. Maybe it's time for us to heal, for us to go within ourselves, to become out better, to come up with better art pieces, to really figure out what, like El Holly said, like, what's the next move or motion for me? If she's moved in a different way in her life, we don't have that time to figure out what our creative abilities are. And so I'm just so grateful, just like I said, just to be extended this opportunity, just to hear from you all and you all's perspective. So thank you, Gene, just for sharing that on today. So please, yes, continue to create.